Welcome back to Saber Reels. This is the Star Wars show here on the Real Entertainment Network. My name is Toby Barkwell, and with me, my co-host, all of us back together once again. It's been a little while, but Colin Morris and the return of Matt Thomas. How you guys doing?
Doing good. Finally good to be back. It's been a few weeks because of stuff out of my control, but here.
I mean, yeah, we've all been kind of busy with our own things, had to miss shows, but last week I thought it just made more sense to have a big discussion about the finale, and we didn't do it last night because Colin was busy, so I wanted to make sure Colin was here so we could do this big, long discussion because there is so much to break down, and I'm really excited to get into it. But before we get into our Bad Batch discussion, we're going to do, as we always do, our little icebreaker. What did we do in Star Wars this week? That could be any new collectibles that we picked up, any of the TV shows we watched or movies we watched. You know the deal. So we'll start with Colin because I know he always got something. So Colin, what you pick up this week?
Got the Imperial Super Commando Funko. I love anything with a helmet in the Funko. I love a bobblehead and all the Funkos that have anything sort of Mandalorian-ish, even though, not technically Mandalorian. Still nice to see.
That's very nice. And speaking of Funko Pops, I know you guys had to have seen it, but the Ghost triple pack with Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Yoda. Did you guys see that?
Yep.
No, I did not.
Oh, Matt, You did not. It's pretty nice.
You gotta remember, I'm not a big Funko Pop guy. Like,
That's
my collection's
true.
right there.
That's true. And I've kind of taken a break on collecting. I needed to take inventory of what I have and some things I need to get rid of so that way I can save up for what I really do want. But this Funko triple pack with all of the Force Ghosts from the end of Return of the Jedi is very, very nice, and I will probably end up getting that whatever it does release.
So Toby, I gotta ask, what is it you really do want then?
What do I really want? Hot Toys, to be honest. Like that's where my brain is. Like I'm not saying I'm gonna get rid of all my Black Series and all my Funkos, but like the more I think about it, the more I just want to invest in just the high-end toy lines, the stuff that like is really like a conversation piece. Like if you walk into someone's house and see like a bunch of Funko Pops, it's like, it's whatever. Everybody has those. But if you see like statues and Hot Toys, like it's much more of a reaction out of people when they see it, and they're just so detailed. Like my Cody is sitting right in front of me, and I just every time I see it, I get happy because it's just so detailed and so many like weapons and different pieces you can add to it to like make it kind of however you want to make it. And yeah, the more I think about it, that's the route I'm thinking about going. And I know it's super duper uber expensive, but I mean it's worth every penny because
but you can also do payments, so it makes it a little bit more
fun. Exactly. That's what I love about Sideshow is that you can just $15 here, $40 there until you have it paid off, and then they send it to you, and then you can put it wherever you want. And the one thing I'm concerned with, though, is dust. Like, I don't have, like, a display case that's, like, glass or whatever. And so this thing gets dusty really quick, and so I'm constantly cleaning it. So that will be another thing I have to save up for.
I would tell you this. It's going to get dusty even in a display case. That's what happens.
Yeah, it's just part of the deal, I guess.
So you're going to get the life-size child, that the actual figure, not the statue that everyone has of him holding the ball up. There's an actual figure, life-size figure.
Yeah, I've seen it, and I would have nowhere to put it right now. That's a once Toby moves out and gets his own place.
That's what I said. Are you a little thinking about it?
But I am probably gonna get that. But at the same time, me and Colin had that whole discussion a few weeks ago with that poster with Grogu having yellow lightsaber. So I kind of want to wait and see if that turns into anything. Because can you imagine like a life-size Grogu with his lightsaber like being all Jedi-like? That would be super sick to have in the collection. So as more seasons and episodes of different shows get released, you have to like kind of time it right. Like I don't want to buy this thing and enjoy this thing, and then oh man, something cooler comes out later that I also have to buy. So gotta be the collecting's all about patience.
Toby.
Yes, it is. I mean, it's like Pokemon. You just gotta collect them all. You just get them all. Life is short. But Matt, did you get anything since you've been gone?
It's been a while, but yeah, I have.
Since you've been gone.
I have two things that I was looking forward to last time. I thought I was going to come on, and I was unable to make it. And then I finally got this.
Nice.
Ooh.
Nice.
Which I was really excited about.
Number one, if I ever met in a bar in the Star Wars galaxy. on the list. Like, can I buy? Do you want to buy some death sticks?
And then I got Tech as well.
Nice.
So I got all the Bad Batch ones so far, besides this douche of an admiral we got. But
can we just take a moment to shout out the model designer at Hasbro that does every individual clone and like takes the time to take the original Tamora Morrison mold. He's like, all right, how am I going to fix this up a little bit? And it just keeps fixing it up, and it's different every time. And it looks really, really great and unique every single time.
Yeah, that's a good point I hadn't really thought of, is that they have like one file in the computer of just Tamora Morrison's head sculpt.
And then click on that, and it's like 2,000 different ones.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like add a dimple here, add a scar here, shrink his face
Alpha,
here.
Beta, Omega.
Yeah, that's a good point. But now, I was talking about Hot Toys a second ago. I want to get one of the Bad Batch because they're going to do the whole line. But which one do I get? Because there's no way I can get all of the Bad Batch.
I think
Hot Toys.
Hunter, you're talking like
Hunter for sure. See, I kind of want Echo because Echo's always been my homie.
Like Hunter's scar with the helmet off.
Toby, did you see the sideshow that is now unfortunately sold out?
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm about to break your heart, I think.
Oh, jeez. I did see that Sideshow is doing animated Clone Wars.
That's exactly.
Is that what it is? Okay,
and
yeah,
the pre-order no, they aren't for pre-order. They aren't sold out yet. Apparently, I read that wrong, but they're sold separately, and it's Anakin and Obi-Wan. I was just like, oh.
See, and I'm gonna be uber pissed if they end up doing a Captain Rex in the animated form after I've already pre-ordered the realistic Captain Rex.
They probably won't do that.
You don't think so?
No, with stuff like that, they probably won't. It's probably more so the Anakin, the Obi-Wan, the Ahsoka, which I think
right.
Ahsoka. So, but yeah, those ones, yes. But Rex, there's not much other than change the face a little bit, which you could probably end up buying a sculpt for. There's not much you're changing there.
Well, the armor is a lot different in animated style than in the live action movie style. Because that's one thing that bugged me about what Hot Toys decided to do with their Clone Wars line, with specifically the clones, that they made the clone armor look like it was in the movies when we know Captain Rex wasn't in the movies. So like his helmet is a little different, his armor plating is a little different. Like most people wouldn't notice, but nerds like me look at it and can tell that there's a difference. And so when I saw that they were doing Anakin and Obi-Wan, I was like, you son of a bitch, if you do Captain Rex in animated style after I've already gotten the Rex in the live action style, then I'm mad.
And you can't cancel it and move your money over without taking like an $80 loss, huh?
Right, exactly. So I mean, if they do go that route, I don't think it would be too hard for me to just sell the one I have and pick up that one. But I've waited 2 years to get this Captain Rex, and if that Captain Rex, the animated one, goes for pre-order tomorrow, that's another like probably 2 years wait before it comes in. So I just don't like waiting on things. Like I'm all about that instant gratification when it comes to my collecting. I hate pre-orders. I hate waiting for stuff to get shipped. I don't know, but that's what I have to look forward to. But we are going to talk about the Bad Batch finale. But before we do that, got a little bit of news to break down. It's been kind of a really slow news week the past few months, just kind of waiting for Bad Batch to end. We're getting into the fall season, so we're going to be seeing some Book of Boba Fett stuff very soon, and hopefully some Obi-Wan Kenobi and maybe some Andor stuff a little bit later in the year as well. But let's talk about the Sabine casting. So we know that we're getting this Ahsoka show, and we know that it's going to involve her looking for Ezra, looking for Thrawn. And so we know that Sabine has to be around there somewhere, right? So they are already in the process of casting Sabine, and Slash Film and IG went and put out a little bit of a short list that they think of people that they're looking at potentially casting. But I wanted to throw it to you guys. Who do you guys want to see cast as Sabine? Me personally, I think Tia Skar should do it. And I understand she's close to 40 years old, but she does not look 40 years old. She looks like she could easily play a early 30s, mid 30s Sabine, depending on when this show takes place. I'm just going to put that out there. I think Tia can most definitely play Sabine in live action, but Matt, we'll throw it to you. Who do you want to play Sabine in the Ahsoka show?
Chloe Bennett, and I will push back on Tia Sakkar being able to play Sabine in live action based off of what we have an idea of what Sabine's nationality race is, and it's not traditional Indian. It isn't, because normally I'm all for casting whoever voiced the character as the live action version, but in the case of Ahsoka, I was not, because Ashley Eckstein, even though her younger years had live action experience, she's a better voice actress. She also doesn't have the look of Ahsoka, and Tia Sakkar doesn't have the look of Sabine. She's close to 40. We know Sabine's in her mid to early 20s because we're getting the Sabine from like right at the end of Rebels when she's about to go off with Ahsoka. So she's not that old. You can't have someone who's nearly 40. So my choice, Chloe Bennett. We have the news from earlier this week where she is no longer involved with the CW Powerpuff show, and it surprisingly and coincidentally came around this time that the news for Sabine being casted in live action came out. So just trying to connect some dots.
And I understand the age thing, but what is age in Star Wars anymore? Like, honestly, like Bo-Katan, if we're going canon, she's like in her 60s, and there's
40.
no.
She's in her 40s.
See, I don't know about that.
In Mando, she's in her 40s because she's early 20s. In Clone Wars, and you're jumping 20 some odd years. So Katie Sackhoff is the correct age, actually.
Okay. I mean, it's just really hard to determine how old people are in Star Wars because they don't outright say that they are this year's old, right? So so that's why I say the age is kind of it's irrelevant in Star Wars sometimes because there's no way to know how old anyone is at any given time or how long of a gap between time is. I know that we eventually get that stuff down the line in reference books, but when it comes to casting characters, I don't think that because they're not between this age and this age, we shouldn't cast them. I don't think that's wise.
Like I said, my main argument isn't on age. We talked about this a little bit before the show. She doesn't have the right look. Ashley Eckstein didn't have the right look.
Right.
At the end of the day, we know Sabine is more so Asian Pacific Islander, not Indian.
Right.
Before you could say, before we met her family, you could argue, yeah, you could probably get someone who's Indian there. We meet her family, which heavily leans towards the Asian Pacific Islander look. Like a lot of, like, for example, Boba Fett, Pacific Islander. Jango Fett, Pacific Islander. So.
Jesse Swift. My buddy Jesse.
Oh, Jesse in the chat. How you doing?
Hang Watch, what's up? Always. So here are the three names. We got Havana Rose Liu, who's a relatively unknown actress. She has 2 things on her IMDb that have been released. One's a short, then another film called Mayday that came out this year. The other 2, Tatiana Gabrielle. She was in The 100 on CW. And then probably the most known name on that list was Lana Condor, who played Jubilee in the latest X-Men films, and also is into all the boys film series on Netflix. So out of those names, Lana Condor has the look. Yeah. I could see her. I mean, just in these pictures I'm looking at on Google that have popped up, her hair is in many different styles, just like Sabine would do all the time. She would change her hair all the time. And I think any of these ladies would be perfect for it. Be awesome. And I think, Disney always makes the right choice so far with these casting calls. They haven't really done one wrong. And we can also confirm that, Lars Mickelson is going to be freaking Thrawn. So, that's awesome. That just confirms that, if they're giving us our Thrawn, maybe we can let it go on Sabine and trust them for the adult side, just like they did with Rosario.
Yeah, see, that's kind of where I'm at, is because Katie works so well in live action, and you can go from watching Clone Wars and Rebels to watching Mandalorian, and it's just like there's no disconnect whatsoever because it's the same exact actress. And if we're getting Lars to play Thrawn, again, same exact actor, in animated and live action, I think that you could have Tia Sakar play her in live action. That way, it's kind of a perfect transition from the animated to the live action, and there wouldn't be that disconnect. Because I'm not going to lie, when we see Sabine and it's not Tia Sakar, no matter who they throw in there, and I'm sure she's going to do a great job, there's going to be a little bit of a disconnect because we are so accustomed to seeing Sabine played by Tia and her voice and her inflection in her voice, the way that she plays the character.
Against that, because a lot of people thought the same thing would happen with Rosario Dawson. Didn't.
See,
because Rosario put in the time and effort, just like our recent watch for me. Respect. Rosario went back, watched the stuff involving the character to do her best to mimic the cadence and voice patterns. It's not hard to do as a professionally trained actor, especially when you're coming from a voiceover character for the first time in live action.
Lars is not confirmed, but it's also like heavily like it's good to go.
It's not really confirmed until StarWars.com puts it out. That's how Lucasfilm does their news releases.
If we wouldn't we wouldn't have a show.
Right.
We'd have a show like once every 4 weeks.
Right. But no, it's not confirmed, but it might as well be.
Black.
Who?
Tati Gabrielle, one of the names you brought up.
Yeah.
She'd be an interesting choice because she's black.
Yeah.
So, see, that's what I mean. I know that they are looking for a specific ethnicity to play Sabine, and they've already written Sabine to be a sort of maybe, like you said, Middle Eastern, Islander, Asian. Like it can go either way, personally, but I still think that they should let
the whole quarter
it.
quadrant of a map.
She's mixed. She's half Korean, half black. Her mother is Korean. So
okay.
But
either way, I'm sure they're gonna find the right person to do it.
Yeah.
We ready?
But wait, Colin, you brought up the 100. You couldn't bring up the fact she's Prudence from Sabrina. More people know her. More people know her from that probably than. But yeah, Prudence from Sabrina. I'm all in.
And real quick, one last thing. Taika Waititi said in a recent interview that his Star Wars film is written, and he's just kind of waiting for it to start filming here relatively soon. Very excited about that. We already know it's going to be super weird and different. I mean, just going off of Taika's, other work. I'm a little bit concerned just because, like, how do I explain this? Taika is just so out there, and we're so used to Star Wars being very consistent in tone and very consistent in themes, right? And Taika is going to bring something completely different to the table. And I don't want to sound like a pessimist here because I'm really not. It's just because Taika is so weird and different, it's going to be a different viewing experience entirely, whatever he does decide to put on screen. So I'm curious, are you guys, like, in terms of what we're getting, how excited are you for Taika's film?
I'm in. I really just, that's all I need to know. He's doing it. I'm in.
So the thing is, Star Wars fans, we want new, we want different. And funny enough, a couple years ago, Taika was the guy who said, "I will never make a Star Wars film." You know what changed his mind? Working on The Mandalorian. You want to know what they just did for James Gunn, and Warner Brothers did what people said Warner Brothers would never do, and that was give directors complete creative freedom on the project. We know, whether it's been fan accepted or fan hated, Star Wars, for the most part, has given directors free range on a project. I trust Taika Waititi because he's got, especially because he with that direction. Think about that, Jason Sudeikis, and I forget who the other actor was. Just the dialogue back and forth as those stormtroopers in the first or in the season finale of Mandalorian season 1. It worked.
See, I just don't want a whole movie of that.
I'm not saying it'll be a whole movie of that. We don't we're starting to get away from the stories of Jedi and whatnot. So we don't even know if there's going to be Jedis or whatnot in this film. It's all depend on what the film ultimately is about. Like if we get something more akin to a Solo, it'll work perfectly. Think about it that way. A story like Solo definitely lends itself more so to Taika Waititi's creative direction, rather than a story like one of the sequel trilogy films. So that's got to be straight line, fall within a certain direction, and be that what it is. This is supposedly a one-off. It's not Ryan Johnson's supposed trilogy. It's not Patty Jenkins. Why am I forgetting?
Rogue Squadron.
Rogue Squadron. It is its own story. So for that reason alone, I'm all in.
Yeah, who knows when we're going to find out what this movie is about, but I think maybe my opinion will change and maybe a lot of other people's opinion will change when we see where it's taking place and what it's going to be about. Because if it's going to get into the Force and Jedi and that philosophy, it's like, oh boy, like this is going to be Taika covering. I would love to see Taika's interpretation of the Force. Like personally, that would just be very, very insane and crazy. But I have a feeling it's probably going to be something like a Solo, a very small kind of a story. That way he can be as creative as he wants to with it. And we don't have to worry about it, bumping up against the bigger movies, bigger projects like, the Skywalker saga and the Mandalorian and all that good stuff. But with that, we are finally going to talk about this finale, right? The Bad Batch is over. The first season is over. Like, can you believe it? Like, it completely flew by. We got a 2-part finale like Star Wars loves to do with Chapter 15, Return to Kamino, and Chapter 16, Kamino Lost. And I thought it just made sense to talk about this as one big finale instead of breaking it up into the 2 parts. Wow, is there so much to cover here? I don't even know where to start, right? Hunter gets captured, and we got a very classic Star Wars rescue mission. And I just want to say my favorite part of the first part of this finale was Hunter and Crosshair just kind of going back and forth, explaining their reasoning for what the choices that they made. And I thought it was really surprising, and I thought it worked too, that Crosshair is upset that the Bad Batch didn't come for him. Like, they knew that he had turned their backs on him, whether it's the Chip's fault or if Crosshair, is really just this asshole who just doesn't want to be a part of the team anymore. That's kind of irrelevant right now. I think we still have that to be answered a little bit later. But like Crosshair's, he's upset. He got his feelings hurt that the Bad Batch did not try to come save him, right? Like, Matt, I'm curious how you reacted to that.
Watching that dialogue happen, my first instinct was to jump up and say, "Bitch, you were trying to kill him. What were they supposed to do? You were shooting at the action," because I'm like, that makes no sense.
Just missed it. I just missed screenshotting you stuck like
That was so good. That was so good.
I mean, I thought that this was like, you could have seen it coming from a mile away if you were giving in to the like Crosshairs is going to come back, because there was no other way for him to come back besides it to be like, well, actually, it was your fault. Like, aha, didn't see that one coming. And spoiler alert, he doesn't have his chip anymore, so he thinks this is.
So
I was just saying, time out. We don't know what is going on with that chip.
We didn't see it. We can't believe it.
Well, he's got a huge scar on the side.
That's because he got
from the burn.
He got torched from the Venator, right? Like that. I think they did that very intentionally, and that makes so much sense because if he says his chips got removed, it's like, oh, you can just look and see if there's a scar there, but there's a burn mark there, so you wouldn't know.
You saw Hunter in the second episode trying to look for a scar.
Yep.
Like you could see it in this, and we'll get to it, but you can see him actually trying to look, but because of the burn, you can't tell.
See, but he would had to have gotten it removed in between the first episode and now, which not a whole lot of time has passed, I'm assuming. So when he said he got it removed a long time ago, it's like, okay, what are you talking here? Because we saw you in the first episode have like your chip dialed to 11.
Yeah, it seems like it's been a few months. Let's put. We don't know the specific time frame yet, but it does seem like it's been a few months because they've been working with Sid for a while. But yeah, I can't. Considering it was dialed to 11, you don't know what else the Imperials told him. You really think they'd take that chip out? Like,
yeah, no way. He's so much more of a value to them under their control with the chip, right? We know that Crosshair's an asshole and he's going to do his own thing no matter what. but the chip being there is just going to make it a whole lot easier for them to control him. But at the same time, let's say he's telling the truth and he did remove his chip and he is doing this on his own pure will. He wants to work for the Empire. He wants to have a purpose. He sees the Bad Batch as like, you guys are irrelevant. You're going to have nothing to do in this galaxy. I want to stay here and have a job and be a part of something, right? And that's why he ultimately decided to stay on Camino whenever the Bad Batch decided to flew the coop. I know we're jumping way, way, way ahead, but it all kind of comes back around to Crosshair's, like, what is his intent here? And I still don't think we know yet.
Yeah. And it's hard because somebody my cousin actually compared it to when you had, if you saw the movie Harriet a couple years ago, where you had Harriet coming back to free other slaves, and you had her sister go like, no, this is wrong, this and the other, and she's like, you're gonna regret this, and later on her sister's killed. I'm like, that's you're using slavery. I'm like, I don't know why you're using slavery, but hey, I get it. You're making your point known, and it's a clear point, mind you.
And I am a little glad that they've left it very open-ended, because a lot of people, me included, predicted that Crosshair would, redeem himself at the end of the season, whether he would sacrifice himself to save Omega or the Bad Batch, or he would decide to, he would realize that he's being used and join the Bad Batch again, and they would all sing Kumbaya and be friends again. But it's not that. It's neither of those. He's kind of made up with them, and there's kind of that conclusion that, like, okay, we offered you a spot and you said no, so whenever we run into you in the future, there's no like awkwardness or like animosity. It's like, no, you chose to do what you chose to do. And I'm sure they're going to continue to run into him in the future, but Crosshair is just, he's still very conflicted, whether, again, we don't know what's going on with his chip, but I like that this is going to continue on for another season, and that it's not just, oh, Crosshair was bad for a little while and now he's good again. We still have a villain, a potential villain with him, kind of anti-hero. Maybe he's going to get more involved in the Empire and start to see what's really, really going on. But
I have a feeling the Empire is going to reject him going into the next season.
See, whenever they left him on Camino, I was like, well, he's just going to die there, right? No one's coming to save him. But I believe they did say early on in the episode that they were going to send some people to go scan the area and look for survivors. Right. So I'm sure he'll get picked up. And
he'll get picked up, but I have a feeling Rampart's just going to, because remember, he basically told him, he's like, if you can't turn him, you're all dead, basically.
Right.
So I feel like early on next season, we're going to see Rampart turn on him and maybe end up with a Crosshair who's been cast aside by the Empire and trying to redeem himself and prove that he's worthy in a bounty hunter type fashion.
I could see that. I could definitely see that. Him just kind of becoming kind of a rogue kind of bounty hunter, just kind of doing his own thing, and maybe he runs into the Bad Batch again in the future. Yeah. Season 2 is going to be very, very interesting. Not just the tease that they left at the end of the finale, which we'll get to, but also what Crosshair's kind of, what, again, his intent, what is his goals, and what's going to become of him if the Empire does decide to cast him aside. And also, we've been talking about Death Troopers this whole season, about what's going to happen with them, because the Elite Troopers are still a thing, right? And the Republic Commandos are still a thing.
We have
right, yeah. At least we still have one, but I'm sure we're going to get more next season. And also the Republic Commandos, like, what's going to become of them? Like, there was a whole lot of them at the end of the season when they go to that, that secret laboratory with Nala Se. Like, I wonder what's going to become of them. There's so many questions, and I know we're jumping ahead to the finale, but I'm looking at this as one big
episode, and you got to jump back.
Exactly, you got to jump back and forth. But Colin, what was out of this finale? What is something that really stood out to you, excluding the Crosshair stuff?
Omega.
Yep.
I mean, we discover so many things. I mean, confirmation that she's older than all of them was there. Like, we knew that she was there when their mutations were done, and now we're like, she's like, you guys are gonna trust you guys are listening to the kid now. Like, yeah, dude, because she's smart and she's not dumb, and she saved like, your ass.
Older than you.
Yeah, like, and she saved them. She saved him when she was shooting the bow. at the spot where he was lodged to free him. That was true. That was spectacular stuff.
Mhm.
It looked amazing. The water looked amazing. I know that's always the way that you can tell how far animation comes, is the water stuff. And dang, like, it looked so good. It sounded good. And Omega is like, slowly becoming one of my favorite Star Wars characters. And now I really want to know, what if Taika's doing an Omega movie? Let's do it. Their accents are the same.
Wouldn't that be something? But no, you're totally right. Omega was fantastic in both of these parts of the finale. Starting out with the first part, she could have easily ran back to the ship and just got Rex to come help. But she's like, nah, I'm going to stay here with my guys and I'm going to help them out. And she did a little bit more bad than good because she let the drones out, on the Bad Batch, and that kind of didn't really work out. But no, her entire kind of mini arc in the final part of the finale was just amazing. Like, she saved the day so many different times with her plans and her schemes. And I mean, and even in the first part, knowing that secret underwater tunnel led to Nala Se's laboratory, like Omega's not on that mission. There's no way that they save Hunter. Like, there's absolutely no way. And finding out that she was there for the creation of the Bad Batch, and that's why she's so attached to them, is because she wasn't alone for a little while. Like, she was just watching the Bad Batch kind of grow and develop, as she's Nala Se's kind of lab assistant or what have you.
Right.
So she only had such a short amount of time with them before they left, and then she was alone again. And that's why she said, like, I went to go find you guys, because she was so attached. Like, that was a great little moment that I didn't really expect that we were going to get there. And it just added so much to her development as a character and her relationship with the Bad Batch, because she's been there from the very beginning of their creation and seen them grow up. And now she's their sister, and they're kind of her older brothers, raising her. Like, it's just such a great little moment to have that just adds so much more complexity to their relationship. But
You're absolutely right.
Any other big Omega moments that you guys really liked? And what do you guys see Omega developing into season 2?
Her closing moment with Crosshair, that was just uber powerful, because she's the last one to say anything to him. And the fact that she's like, look, they're still your brothers. Whether you like it or not, they're always going to try to do what's in your best interest, because they are your brothers. You are my brother too. Whether you like it or not, or want to accept it.
Gonna make me cry.
That was such a great, just perfect ending for the Bad Batch going into season 2. Is like, these are my brothers, and they're also your brother, and you are my brother.
And let's talk about
just has to sit there and sulk.
Let's talk about the parallels of Omega in terms of the Omega that looked at Hunter and was like, Hunter, don't ever let me go back to Camino. Ever. I don't ever want to go back. And now she's like super sad, like watching her home, the only place she ever lived for the first years of her life, literally falling into the ocean. And she's falling with it. Like, it's just like super powerful to see that, like, she gets some reminder that, like, it's not just her home, it was their home too, and that's where they were all born. So now they all have a common loss, and it's just this thing that I think will bind them together. I want to see some, like, Ezra from season 2 to season 3. Like, let's skip ahead, like maybe even like a year. Like what if they're just like good for like a year? Like, they're just like off doing whatever, and that'd be cool. See Omega, maybe she's got a gun.
I think she's in love with that bow too much. I want to keep seeing I want to see her be the sharpshooter with the bow.
Right? I like that. Her, like, kind of replacing Crosshair as
Another beats a good blaster, kid.
But no, you bring up a good point about where are we going to go from season 1 to season 2 in terms of a time jump. And my brother texted me yesterday, and he thought that there would be a pretty significant time jump, maybe a year or so. And I don't think so, because we are going to see the stormtroopers for the first time. We're going to find out why they are called stormtroopers. I guarantee you we're going to see TIE fighters for the first time, how TIE fighters become a thing. We're going to see all of this very familiar imagery from the Empire for the very first time in this show. And I don't think skipping a year or two is going to allow for them to tell that story, right?
And before we get too deep
we've
into
already
like
seen
the
a
future
stormtrooper.
stuff,
You've already seen the stormtrooper. Stormtrooper's designation are TK.
yeah, they just don't have a name yet.
They
Like,
don't have the
give
name
them
yet.
this.
They have a different helmet. But
That's what I mean.
But we still. The point is,
But we
we've
saw
still
it.
seen
I
them.
get what you're
We've
saying,
seen
man. Like,
them already.
We'll see why. We'll see somebody call
We'll
them
see the
stormtroopers.
evolution
Yes,
of the
yeah.
stormtrooper. But we've officially seen a technically we've seen the first official stormtroopers already.
Okay,
So
I see what you're saying.
So for people who have been saying online that like, oh, this is a bit of like the finale was a bit of like a letdown, whatever. Let's not forget that the season finale of season 1 of Clone Wars was a bit of the same. It was the kidnapping and the ransacking of the Senate by the bounty hunters, and it really opened up the show into a whole new like tone. Really, like it really put some huge stakes for the first time in the show. I think that's what I mean. Not that the stakes haven't been high in this one already, but if you guys, I mean, I expect that this is probably going to connect to probably some Thrawn-ness at some point, because Thrawn is we could see a younger Thrawn working his way up. That'd be kind of cool. I'd be down for that. Because how many years away? We're like 10, 12 years away from Rebels, right?
Yeah.
Give or take, yeah.
Yeah.
But you mentioned the keyword connect there, and this is going to get into the very end shot of this finale, and that is Nala Se landing on this mysterious laboratory with someone dressed in a certain attire that looks very, very familiar that we've seen recently in Mandalorian. So when you say connect, I believe that all of the Disney Plus shows that can be animated, live action, all of this stuff is going to connect somehow. And between Bad Batch and Mandalorian, it being cloning, and they are going to eventually tell the story of how Palpatine was able to clone himself and how Snoke became a thing. I think that's where we're going with this. And I think that's actually perfect. I know a lot of people don't want Bad Batch and Mando to touch the sequels with a 10-foot pole. I understand that perspective, but it will be valuable for them to add some context into Palpatine's cloning and how Snoke was a thing. And it's all going to go back to the Kaminoans and their cloning facilities and how they kind of made a name for themselves in making the clone army. And I think that connective tissue would be really valuable in making the sequels and the prequels and the original trilogy all kind of tie together. Am I making sense there?
Yeah. I mean,
And
they hinted at that last year.
We talked on Friday, right? Like we were hanging out for a little while on Xbox, and like my initial thoughts were like, well, I hope this doesn't, we don't know right now, as of leaving the temple, where Grogu is. So there's always the potential that is the connection. Grogu Watch is official on the Bad Batch, because now we don't know where he is, and if he's just been, I mean, we know he was suppressing his powers to hide, but like we don't know where he was hiding. So who knows? Like, what if? I mean, it'd be cool if they got to go to Coruscant for some reason, and oh my God, look, it's a little green thing. Oh my God, it could be our pet, and then they just like have Grogu and then run upon someone, but it wouldn't work. Who knows? There's so much they could do.
No, I definitely agree. Grogu is the kind of the main figure right now for Star Wars and pop culture. Everybody knows who Grogu is, that and Mandalorian. And we know Grogu survived the Purge. It would not surprise me one bit if Grogu shows up in the Bad Batch somehow. And not just Grogu, but again, Nala Se and the cloning and the Empire, that's having that scientist show up in the same exact lab outfit as the scientist from Mando. That's very intentional. Like they are trying to tell us like, hey, this is all connected somehow. And that way it requires you to not only watch Mandalorian, but to watch the Bad Batch and to watch all the other Disney Plus shows. They are pulling a Marvel here. I believe they are trying to connect everything as much as they can. You can still, if you choose, watch everything individually.
Yes.
But those who watch everything will have the whole story.
And see, Colin, this is even before you were president. Toby, last year when Connor finally got on the Mandalorian train, and Taylor was like, people were coming to you and I in our old group chat of, what does this mean? What is it? It's like, well, we're like, go check this out or read this because, and we're like, we know you don't want to go back and watch this stuff, but honestly, you will enjoy this stuff that's happening and coming up even more if you even just check out these specific arcs and not the full thing.
Right. And I was telling that was one of the things I was telling people as well. Like, even my girlfriend, like we would sit down for like, we'd be cooking dinner, even during the Mandalorian stuff, and especially in season 2. And I would just turn on like here's the first time Katie Sackhoff was in it. Okay, here you go. Now sit down. This is her doing Bo-Katan thing. Check it out. And I was like, okay, cool. Just filling in the little gaps. Like, okay, she's here. She's met her. Okay, there's Ahsoka. She knew Ahsoka. Ahsoka's big enough that, my girlfriend knew who Ahsoka was. But I think it's an ample opportunity to connect some stuff. If there is a time jump, give me some comics that I actually want to read, please.
And another thing Disney Plus has done that is very smart is after the Ahsoka show or the Ahsoka episode aired on Mando, they had an Ahsoka essential. Yep. Yes, and they did the same thing with after Mando. Yeah, the Dark Saber. They did like a Dark Saber essentials and a Clone Wars essentials. Like, here are the episodes that you need to watch to have all of the context. You don't need to watch all 7 seasons of the Clone Wars. That's not necessary. If you choose to do so, great. You will again have a more complete story. But if you don't want to do that, here are 5-6 episodes that you can watch that will give you everything that you need to know. And they're going to continue to do that going forward, I believe. But other than that, anything else, guys, that you really want to talk about in this finale? Or do you want to talk about, real quick, overall thoughts on the first season of The Bad Batch?
Let's just talk about the overall, man, because I thought this surpassed my expectations.
Yes.
Because let's just go ahead and say it. This is the best first season of an animated Star Wars show that we've ever had. I think this set by far. Yes. Like, when you look at, like, if you want to talk about some stuff that we had to sit through in Rebels and Clone Wars season 1 to get to where we ended up with those shows, it just says now. Are my expectations too high? Let's get into fantasy football mode. Is the ceiling too high, guys? Like, with the too many rushing yards? Is the Bad Batch now Derrick Henry? They have too good of a season last year, and now his expectations are too high.
So here, I'll say this: part of the reason I think it was the best first season of television is because it essentially
whoa, easy there with television.
Animated television, you know what I meant. But out of the animated series is because essentially it works as a sequel show / spinoff to Clone Wars.
Yeah, it's not having to do a lot of work.
Exactly. It's not having the setup as much because they did the setup, and they did the initial setup at least in 4 episodes of Clone Wars last year. And now they're playing on what we know already as Star Wars fans and adding on to it and adding more depth. So it's not having to work as hard as a show like Clone Wars did, where it had what some thought would be the impossible task of redeeming the prequels and adding more depth to them. It did that just in droves, more successful than anyone would think. Rebels had the job of showing us how the rebellion came together. So but you first had to meet one cell and then see how the cell grew along with the rest of the rebellion. So this show doesn't have as much of a burden to carry as those two did.
No, I agree 100% in that Rebels was introducing brand new characters in a familiar part of the timeline, like right in the middle, in the prime of the Empire. And as Bad Batch, we have characters that we know. We have imagery that we recognize in a setting that is completely unfamiliar. We have not seen the initial beginnings of the Empire in any comic book, movie, novel, anything. Like, this is all very brand new territory, and it's very interesting to us to see how we get from the Republic to the Empire, and how we start to see the transition from Venators to Star Destroyers, and see TIE fighters and stormtroopers. Like, all of that is very interesting to us. And to do it in 16 episodes, I thought they did a very, very great job. I will admit there were a couple episodes to me that was kind of unnecessary. Maybe we will see their importance later on. We will start to see some other characters pop back up. and it will make those episodes seem a little bit more meaningful.
Let's be honest, we're going to end up with another Whales episode from this show.
Yeah.
One of these episodes we saw is going to be the equivalent of the Whales episode in Rebels. Let's be honest.
No, and you're right. But 16 episodes to me, I think maybe a little bit too much. And I know when the season got announced, oh my God, 16 episodes, that's amazing. Why can't it be 30 episodes? But I think if they're going to continue to do seasons on, they will more than likely choose to continue to do 16 episodes, and that's fine. But me personally, I think 12 would have been perfect.
I like the 14 to 16 range because here's the thing. Rebels was always 18 to 22. Clone Wars, besides that last season, which it's the last season, we know it was supposed to be longer, but they just chopped it down to what the important stuff was. That was 12 episodes. So, but we saw how certain things work, and I think the rumors of us, because we've heard that the Rangers of the Republic show is dead. There are certain rumblings, and I think this is something we should have talked about. Disney had their meeting the other day, because it's just hit me. And on November 12th, we're supposed to have another big Disney event day, like we did back in December, where they're going to be talking about future projects and all this, but it's going to be apparently for strictly Disney Plus. So, Star Wars Newsnet has kind of made it seem like we're going to hear rumblings about some sort of solo involved show, which would make sense because then we get to see more about how Maul get to where he is. Maybe we get a Maul show where we see his full rise to power.
Call it Crimson Dawn.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, we've been asking for that forever.
And then we know Emilia Clarke is now in the Disney family because she's going to be in Secret Invasion. So it wouldn't be too hard to be like, hey, after you're done with this, can we see a little bit of Kira rising up in Crimson Dawn and all it all makes sense. There's so many. There's reading. We'll call it this. It's reading the tea leaves. That's what it is, because you have to look at what we've been presented, what's been rumored, and try to put some things together.
Well, what I'll say is, to your point of if they're going to start announcing more shows in November, that's absolutely insane because we haven't seen any of the shows that they announced in December.
Well, I say this because we know those shows are starting to film or they're ramping up production, and it doesn't hurt to announce what the next shows will be after that, especially now that we know one of the shows is dead. Rangers has been said to be dead, so that's one less on the board. So how do we get rid of that? Let's replace it with something else that people have been claiming.
Well, my point was going to be that if we're going to continue to get so much more content, we're going to get to the point where we're having new Star Wars every single week, 365 days a year. But with that being said, I don't want 16 episodes of a season here, 18 episodes of a season here, 14 episodes of a season here. Let's keep it very short and sweet and to the point.
I think that way, animated will be the 16. Live action, you're going to get 6 to 12. That's what I think it's going to be. Okay,
that's fair. And I guess what I'm trying to say here is I didn't get bored with the Bad Batch, but I think it would have been let's say you cut one of those filler episodes and make the finale one episode. I'm perfectly content with that. Perfectly content with that. Well, but you just extending it on every single week, it's okay, I get it. Let's wrap this show up so we can get excited for another show.
Keep in mind, the first episode was essentially 3 episodes.
Yep.
So please keep that in mind. So in theory, it was still a 19-episode season. In theory. So you're asking for 2 or 3 episodes to get cut. That's still 16 episodes.
That's
16,
true.
17.
That's true.
So you're it's like what you're asking is for less filler. You just want all the story stuff. But we know from Filoni, the filler stuff 9 times out of 10 is always going to end up playing into something down the line.
No, you're right. And I'm not trying to sound grumpy here because I'm not. I know. I guess I kind of just want more of a streamlined story. Here's all of the stuff you need to know. And I don't think filler episodes are bad. I've talked all season about how filler episodes can be important with character development and introducing new characters that become important later. But use filler episodes, but still make a shorter season. You know what I mean? So 13, 14 episodes, including 1-2 filler episodes. I'm cool with that, and making the finale one part and make it a grand total of around 13 episodes for everything. I would be happy with that. That's just me.
It's weird. I can't hear you guys, but you guys can hear me.
Yes. Yeah, I can hear you.
So weird. Hold on, I'll drop in and drop back in.
Okay.
But
see, I just can't believe we're getting season 2 next year. Like, I know they've probably been working on season 2 all of this time. Yeah. But again, I was texting my brother. He's like, man, it sucks. We probably won't get season 2 for a while. I was like, no, we're getting it next year.
Next year.
I was like, yeah, they were probably filming season 2 while they were releasing season 1.
You want to know what what I wouldn't be shocked by? If the first episode or 2 is shown at Celebration, because it seems to be what they always do for the animated shows.
You're not wrong, and I bet you are correct, and we will probably be there to watch it, and that will be very exciting. But man, I cannot believe Bad Batch is over with. That
Colin,
completely flew by.
I can hear you guys.
All right.
Okay, great. Colin, any final thoughts on season 1 before we wrap up?
So impressed. I just want more now. I love these characters. They're now officially part of the family. And I think that this is going to go forward for years to come and fill in gaps. That's what Star Wars is doing. There's so many gaps. So I'm like, all right, cool. They're going to point to this spot. They're going to fill it in. And they're just going to keep filling it in until there's no more gaps left in that timeline that we used to see at the beginnings of Legends books growing up. So it's going to be super exciting to see how they fill it all out. I want to see more Rex in season 2. Yeah, let's get some
Absolutely.
Cody. Give me the Commandos. Let's just blow it all out. Let's just give me anybody who's ever worn a helmet.
What's up, Buck?
Hey, Buck. What's going on, buddy? No, you mentioned Rex and Cody. Yes, let's get that story, please. I thought we were going to get that this season. We got a little bit of it with Gregor, right? Like, we got a little taste, but I want to see that fully fledged out. Like, and what is Cody doing?
We have no idea where they've taken Gregor either.
They took him to Sid, and he was chilling out with Sid during the finale. That's all we know. But we know that Gregor and Rex have to meet up. We know that they eventually got to find Wolf, and Cody's got to come in there somewhere. Please, Dave, please, season 2. I don't want to wait anymore for that story because that's personally what I'm most excited to see. But with that, we're going to wrap up here. Thank you so much for watching. We're going to probably do a show next week. We won't have an episode to talk about, which will be kind of fun. We're going to probably do an entire episode on this Disney Star Wars super duper cruise thing that they got going on. I have a bajillion thoughts about it, and I'm going to save them for next week because that's going to be a really, really fun discussion. So please stay tuned for that. And then we have a little bit of a gap between that and when we see Visions for the first time. So we will probably do an episode after that. Just we're going to come up with some fun stuff to talk about while we're not talking about just episodes of TV shows. So stay tuned for that. And Matt, we have a whole bunch of great stuff on here. So go ahead and tell them what the rundown is for Who Are They Real Entertainment.
Well, tonight you'd normally have Real Talk. No Real Talk tonight, though. Tomorrow you have Spin from the Real, and we got a doozy of a show for you guys. We have 2 special guests. Video Drew is one, another Dungeon member who I will keep nameless until later today on the Spin from the Real Twitter is the other. So if you're a Schmodown fan, be sure to check out our Spin from the Real Twitter at around 4:30 Eastern, 5 o'clock Eastern to find out who our special guest is. Tuesday is Real Sports with Colin Morris and myself. Probably going to do another fantasy football draft because, Toby's a bum and did all he could to avoid the league.
I forgot about it. Leave me alone. I'm busy.
Forgot is a lie. And then we're going to talk about the latest and greatest in sports. We got preseason football to talk about. We've got Summer League continuing its grind to talk about. Colin is excited to talk about his boy, Kaminga.
The cum bucket. As he has been deemed the worst nickname in the. He's like, I left Africa at the age of 10 to come over here and learn this fucking game for you guys to call me the cum bucket. Disrespectful.
Yeah.
I just want to point out the Pacers rookie has been outstanding in
You mean the guy
League.
Colin wanted? Colin has issues with you right now.
That guy has been so
Chris
good.
Duarte.
Yeah, I'm very happy with him.
Colin is not happy.
Colin is currently sniffing his camera.
He's staring you now. Wednesday, Real Geek Core with Chris Anthony Lopez and Connor Breedlove, giving you the latest and greatest on all things geek. Thursday, I don't know if it's this Thursday or rather soon, but it sounds like Really Scared is coming back.
Yay! Really scared.
Yeah. Connor said so on Twitter. He mentioned it again on Real Geek Core. I don't know which Thursday it's coming back, but it is coming back relatively soon.
It's a Thursday. We don't know which, but it's a Thursday.
I think it's one of the next two, but I don't know if they've settled on. Friday, you're back here with Wrestler with Chris Anthony Lopez and Nick Mulbach. Schmo Me the Real is on this channel this week, so remember Schmo Me the Real for your Schmodown, after show thoughts. Check it out here. And then next Saturday, you're back with us on the normal day, Saturday. So yeah.
So much content, all of the content here on Who Are They Real Entertainment. So thank you guys so much for watching. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Leave a comment, do all of the YouTube thingies that you must do. We appreciate your support. Thank you for watching. May the force be with you always.